I'm Ranger Erin, and today we're wondering, why are fish shaped the way they are? And when we ask about animals, and if I ask you to picture an animal, right away we start to think about land animals because that's the type of animal that we usually think about. But most vertebrates, those are animals that have backbone, so we have a backbone, and most animals that have backbones are actually fish. And fish, as we know, have to live in the water. So they're the biggest group of those vertebrates, those animals that have backbones. When an animal lives in the water, we call that type of habitat an aquatic habitat. So aquatic means water. So we're going to be talking about those aquatic habitats. And just like on land, there's going to be lots of different types of aquatic habitats. So when we say aquatic habitat, it's not just one type of habitat, there's going to be lots. So already we can probably start to think of lots of different types of aquatic habitats. We could have those fish living out in a really big river like the Ohio River. We could have fish living in a smaller stream or creek like Floyd's Fork. We could have fish living out in a lake. And of course, we have lots and lots of fish living out in the ocean. But even then, we can break those habitats down into smaller and smaller habitats because not every part of that creek or that river or that ocean is the same as every other part. So if we're just thinking about those creeks, we're going to have fast water in some places and we're going to have slow water in others. And some fish are going to like to live in the fast water and some are going to like to live in the slow water. We're going to have really deep areas and we're going to have shallower areas. And again, some fish are going to like one over the other and they're going to have adaptations for living in one over the other. They're also going to be different temperatures. Some places are going to get more sunshine. They're not going to have as many trees over top of that creek. It's going to be warmer. Some fish are going to like it warm, and some other fish are going to like it colder in the shade. Some fish are going to like to live out in the open, right in the middle of the deep parts, and then some fish are going to like to stay near the edges where there's lots of tree roots and plant roots that they can hide inside of. Some are going to like those big rocky areas on the bottom, whereas others, again, are going to like to be out in that open area. And even some of those trees are going to be a little bit different. Different types of plants are going to be attract different types of fish. So even the different types of plants that are growing along the edge might mean that you have different fish living there. So there's going to be lots and lots of different types of aquatic habitats. Aquatic doesn't just mean one type of habitat, it means lots and lots and lots of opportunities for different types of fish to live. So these animals are going to have different body shapes based on where they're living. Of course, those ones that are going to be around the tree roots are probably going to stay a little bit smaller. Those ones that are out in the open are going to be a little bit bigger. They're also, just like land animals, going to be a little bit different based on what they're eating. So if we think about those predators, they're going to be built for speed. They're going to be long and skinny, and they're going to be able to dart after that food that they want to capture and eat up. Whereas maybe some of our other animals that might be those fish that might be detritivores, so those bottom feeders, they're going to be eating all of the stuff that sort of falls to the bottom of the lake or to the creek. They're going to be maybe bigger. They're maybe going to be flatter because they're going to be running their bellies along the bottom of that body of water, along that aquatic habitat. For fish, they live in a 3D world just like we do, so it matters also where they like to eat. So if they like to eat near the surface of the water, so they like to pick off all the bugs that are on the top of the water, they're going to have mouths that are going to point towards their foods. They're going to have mouths that are pointing upwards so they can grab all of those bugs that like to visit the top of the water. If you've got a fish that, again, is that bottom feeder, that they're feeding off all of the stuff that falls to the bottom of the creek or that lake, they're going to have a mouth that also points towards their food. It's going to point down so that they can grab up all of that food that's on the bottom of that lake. And then, of course, those ones that are right there in the middle are going to have that mouth that's kind of pointing straight forwards. Their mouths are always pointing towards where their food is going to be. Now, of course, not all fish look the same, but they all have bodies that are meant for swimming. So take a look at those bodies, see how they're streamlined for moving through that watery world, how they have those fins that help them to propel themselves, how they have those tails that are going to help them to choose their direction going forward, up and down, and all over the place. And the best way to do that is going to be to go fishing. So for your outside time, I'm not really going to say go for a hike. I'm going to say go fishing, because the best way to look at those fish shapes is to actually get a hold of those fish and take a look at them close up. So do some catch and release fishing. You're probably going to need an adult for this. So grab that fishing pole and head on out to some area where you can get close to the water. Morning is a really great time. A lot of our fish are crepuscular. Fish don't have eyelids, so they're gonna not really want to be out there when it's full sunshine. So you can choose those shady parts, or choose to go a little bit earlier in the morning when they might be more active. You can use live bait, or you can use some fake bait like I'm using, and you're just gonna catch that fish, take a look at it, and then release it back into the water. When you catch your fish, I want you to look at its shape overall. And you might not know what type of fish that is, that's okay, but take a look at where its mouth is pointing. And when you see which way its mouth is pointing, where do you think that that fish likes to live? Does it like to live near the top, like a bluegill, or does it like to live near the bottom, like a catfish? And then, is that shape what you expected when you were gonna catch a fish? So sometimes those shapes might be a little bit unexpected, and think about why it might have the shape that it does. For today's indoor craft, you're gonna need some coffee filters, at least 2, googly eyes, some water, scissors, washable markers, and glue. And the first thing that we're gonna do for our fish, that's gonna be kind of like a watercolor effect fish, is we're gonna color in our coffee filters with colors. Doesn't matter how neat it is, because we're going to change it with that water. Place your coffee filters in some type of container, and then we're going to drip water on top of it. I'm going to use a pipette, but you can use a spoon or whatever you need. And we're just going to kind of drip some water, and you can see how it changes the colors. The colors kind of bleed into each other. Now we're going to let those dry. I'm going to skip ahead here, and I've already got 2 that are already dry. This one's going to be the body of my fish, and I'm going to turn this one into the fins. So I'm going to cut it up into some different shapes. Using the glue, we're going to start to put it together. And of course, a googly eye. And here we've got our watercolor fish craft. Thanks for joining me. I'll catch you all next time.